Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us this morning. And for those of you that are watching this back, thank you so much for taking the time to do that as well. I'm delighted to be joined today by Kay Sion. She is from Scenic and Emerald Cruises, which have amazing ocean cruises, river cruises, yacht cruises as well. So as you may know, we're going to be focusing on the European river cruises today, but we do have another 3 webinars coming up. So next Tuesday, we're going to be looking at Scenic and Emerald's Mekong River cruises. Then Thursday of the same week, so this day next week, we're going to be looking and doing a deep dive into the Scenic Eclipse, which is an absolutely amazing luxury ship. It's just so fantastic. So you should definitely join us for that one. And coming up then on the following Tuesday, so we're looking at the 15th of October, we are going to be looking at Emerald's yacht cruises as well. So lots of great webinars coming up. And of course, I'm going to hand over the reins very shortly to Kay. But as always, we're going to do a Q&A at the end. So if there's anything that Kay hasn't covered, or if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask, you will have the opportunity to do that at the end. And as you probably know as well, just by registering and joining us for this webinar, you will be in with a chance of winning a place on a 2025 fam trip with Scenic and Emerald. So that is super exciting. We're just going to choose a random winner, somebody that has decided to join us live or has registered for the webinars. So good luck, everybody. Make sure that all of your colleagues are registered for all of the other ones. I am going to pass over now to the lovely Kay. Thank you so much for joining us, Kay. Really appreciate you taking the time to jump on and do this webinar, because it's a fantastic product that you have. I'm very lucky that I was able to experience the Scenic Eclipse. So I'm really looking forward to hearing about your river cruises. So I'm going to turn off my camera, mute myself, and hand over the reins to you. So thanks so much, Kay.
Thank you. I hope everybody can see my screen well. Good morning again to everyone. So for those who have never heard about me, my name is Kay, and I'm responsible for the sales in several markets in continental Europe, including the Irish market. So I'm very excited to be here today and to be able to tell you a little bit more about Scenic and Emerald Cruises. Like Carrie mentioned, we'll go into different sessions because we do have a pretty large portfolio on offer. And yeah, so let's dive right into Scenic River Cruises. But first of all, the question is, well, who is Scenic? How did Scenic start? And in that sense, Scenic is an Australian company that was founded over 36 years ago, and in Australia. So we're an Australian company, and basically we started touring. So we started with coach tours in Australia for Australians, expanded into the Canadian and US markets, and then more than 20 years ago started chartering river ships. But our owner, who is still at the head of our company, so we're still very much a family-owned company, basically the ships that were available back then were not really the standard that he had in mind for his guests. And so he decided to just build a ship. And so that's how Scenic started as a river cruise company. So together now with Scenic and Emerald, we have 23 river cruise ships, mainly sailing on the European rivers, and have then expanded into ocean and yacht cruising as well over the past few years. But we'll get to that over the next few sessions. All things today are about European river cruises. And so in Ireland, traditionally, it's ocean cruises that are very popular. But of course, river cruises are gaining more and more awareness, more and more interest. Image-wise, I get a lot of questions from customers maybe who come to like trade shows or events, fairs, and they say, but river cruising, I'm going to do that when I'm old. I'll do that when I'm in my late 80s, something like that. I still feel like I want to travel the world. So from somebody who's done 4 river cruises over the past 2 years, I can say, please tell your customers not to wait. There are so many tours and excursions that guests with a reduced mobility could miss out on. Of course, they can do all kinds of tours, but like hikes through the vineyards, biking tours, making your tour a little bit more active are also options that are just really special and make a river cruise definitely worthwhile. So Scenic, basically, it's our 5-star brand. And if there's anything you need to memorize from selling a Scenic cruise, all-inclusive. Not just all in, but really truly all-inclusive. That means that the only thing that you have to arrange are the flights for your guests. We include the transfers from the airport to the ship and back. We include complimentary Wi-Fi throughout the cruise for unlimited devices. We include gratuities, meaning that not only on the ship, but sometimes, when guests go on an excursion, they tend to give a tip to their tour guide at the end of the tour. So we've taken care of that. We include butler service for all suite categories, all meals, all drinks, including premium drinks, and all shore excursions, which to me is really, the biggest highlight. And it makes it just so easy to sell because there's literally nothing that the guests have to pay for unless they want to book a massage, for example. But apart from that, really, it's an all-inclusive product. We even have e-bikes on all our ships, except for the Douro, where guests can use to just go on reconnaissance tours of the destination. So to give you a little bit of a feeling for Scenic, here you see what is our standard balcony suite. We do have a few staterooms without a balcony with a window on the top. We tend in Europe, we don't get that many requests for those because we do see that guests who book a river cruise really want to enjoy also, their balconies, in the sense that a river cruise is different from an ocean cruise, that there's always something to look at. So you're never just looking at water, but you're passing, depending where you are sailing on the Rhine, you're passing castles on the Moselle, you're passing vineyards on the Douro, beautiful villas. So it's really quite nice to see. And here in the balcony, so the railing, the part above that window, guests can choose to slide it up or down with a button. It's electric. And basically, even if it's a little bit colder or maybe too hot, just the opposite, guests can still enjoy their balcony. So this is really what is the most popular type of category. The mini bar is included as well for the guests. So they have everything they need. Of course, we do have guests who want to have more space. They want to have that private haven on board. So we do have larger top suite categories ranging from junior suites all the way up to the royal owner suite that you can see here. Everything is possible in between those different categories. The top suites do have a little bit, a few extra benefits. I will mention it, for example, when we come to the dining options. So basically, on Scenic, we have one main restaurant, which is the Crystal Dining. The Crystal Dining is where the guests go for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Breakfast and lunch always have a buffet, with breakfast having an additional a la carte menu with eggs Benedict, omelets, etc. You can just order it a la carte. For lunch, you always also have a small a la carte menu guests can choose from, and the buffet is just an extra. Daily changing menus, of course. And then the evening, it's always a 4-course set menu that changes on the daily, mainly inspired also by the region where we're sailing at that moment. In the Crystal Dining, the guests from the top suites have what is called, it's an extra dinner that you can see on the bottom right, which is table la rive or table d'or, depending on the ship, which is an 8-course menu. Very much focused on the region where we are, with a wine pairing menu. So it's like a special additional dinner, and it's a separate table, sort of like a captain's table, which is located in a separate part of the Crystal Dining restaurant. Apart from that, we also have a cafe, the River Cafe, which offers just a casual snacks or meals throughout the day, just a little bit of grazing. If you want to have coffee, you have little cakes and cookies all day. You have in the evening tapas to go with your aperitif, with your before or after dinner drinks. And then we have the Portobellos or L'Amour, depending again on the ship, which all guests are invited to once per cruise to have a special themed night. For example, the Portobellos on the Douro then has a Portuguese themed night, hosted, of course, by the butlers actually there, because the head butler is in charge of the Portobello's dinner with the wine pairing. And it's really, really exciting to learn all about that region and their specialties. So you see, definitely it doesn't get boring when it comes to food on board. Of course, we also have different activities. We have the salt therapy lounge guests can relax in. We have live music played. On occasion, we have guest bands that come in like during the evenings before we set sail, or we play music in the lounge. In the evening, guests just come together, have a drink, have a chat. It quickly becomes sort of like a community feel because, of course, it's not a big ship and guests do see each other during excursions or maybe during a meal. And yeah, it becomes really like a really nice, familiar style atmosphere. We have a vitality pool on our sun deck on our newest ships on the Rhine-Main-Danube, which are Scenic Opal, Amber, and Jasper. And we have it on the Douro. Other ships have jacuzzis, so there's always a sun deck that guests can relax on. Excursion-wise, I already mentioned, all excursions are included with Scenic River Cruises. That can sometimes even be 2 excursions per day, and guests always have a choice of 3-4 different options. So for example, some guests want to go shop with a chef, others want to maybe go to see a museum. In the Douro, we visit a cork factory or we do a port wine tasting. So of course the guests' interests are different as well. So we try to also offer them different types of excursions. And sometimes even we see that within a couple, maybe the husband does one tour, the wife does another one, and then in the evening they meet again or for lunch, and then they just talk about what they've seen. And it's really quite nice for everybody to sort of get to do what they want to do. Again, there are no supplements. And another thing that Scenic also offers as part of our river cruise program is what we call Scenic Enrich. Scenic Enrich is a really special event, usually once per cruise in the evening at a separate location. We have like a special concert that we organize for our guests. So here you see some pictures of different places. On the top left is Chateau d'Agassac, which is a little chateau in the Bordeaux region that we rent off for the night. We have a champagne reception, and then we have a classical music concert in the chateau. So it's really, really quite special. And it's always something that the guests could not book on their own. So it's always really exclusive to Scenic. And it's part of the program. So when you offer a tour to your guests, you know in advance what Scenic Enrich element is in that program. It's always for all the guests. So it's also not something they need to pre-book or limited space or with a supplement. It's really part of that whole enriching program that Scenic is all about. In our southern France itineraries, we also have our Scenic Culinaire, which is sort of like a cooking, well, not cooking school, but I would say more like cooking demos that we do several times per cruise, where the chefs really show off local specialties. So for example, I learned how to make French onion soup in Bordeaux, which I love from my childhood memories, but my mom and dad used to make it and I never had a clue how to make it. So I learned how to do that. We got to taste it, you get the recipe. It's of course also part of the program. It's not at an additional cost, and it's always outside the excursion time. So it's not like guests have to choose to do one or the other. They can just do both. So it's really, really quite a nice option as well, and a nice activity, again, to bring that destination feeling also on board a little bit. So here, an overview of the different itineraries that we do in Europe with Scenic. So we have quite an extensive collection of ships sailing on the Rhine-Main-Danube. So in total in Europe, we have 12 ships, and there's 4 that are not on the Rhine-Main-Danube. So you can imagine with 8 ships sailing there, we have different combinations. We do Amsterdam, Basel, we do Nuremberg to Budapest, we do Budapest to Bucharest, Amsterdam to Budapest. So really all these different options. Oh, it's flying off on its own. And the ship size is between 96 guests on the Douro to around 160 on the Rhine-Main-Danube. On the Douro, just to talk about it, we do have one ship sailing from Porto all the way to the Spanish border in Vega de Teron, and then going all the way back to Porto. And then we have 3 ships in France, one on the Rhône, sailing from Lyon all the way down. We have Bordeaux, the wine region, and then we have Paris sailing on the Seine. So I did include some examples to sort of give you an idea, of course, of pricing, but also of when do you go there and how long are these itineraries. So one of our classic itineraries that's really, really popular is our Gems of the Danube that we have, that's really a really long seasonality from March to October. I already included everything for next year since we're close to end of the season. And guests in this case fly to Munich, have a transfer to Nuremberg, or can start directly in Nuremberg if they prefer, and then sail to Budapest or the other way around. So we always go 1 week up, 1 week down. Guests can choose to do that. And here you have really some highlights. For example, of course, in Passau, you have the whole Bavarian atmosphere, but Český Krumlov in Czech Republic is, of course, a UNESCO World Heritage listed town with actually one of the best preserved ancient centers in Europe. Yeah, so it's definitely a big highlight on this tour. You get to see the Melk Abbey, which has, in my opinion, the most beautiful library I've ever seen. And then we sometimes do 2 ports in 1 day. So for example, we'll do Melk and Dürnstein in 1 day. We do Melk half day with the Abbey. And then Dürnstein is a little town, very, very picturesque, where guests can walk through, go do some tastings. They're known for apricots, for example. So you can do some tasting there, visit that old town. And we even have guests who choose to not take the ship, but go on a bike ride from Melk to Dürnstein. I think it's around 30 kilometers. So yeah, all options are available. Another really nice tour that I was just mentioning is the one from Paris, sailing all the way on the Seine. What is a really big highlight is that our ship, Scenic Gem, actually has the capability of sailing into Honfleur. So we dock in the old harbor, in that little harbor of Honfleur, which is one of the most beautiful harbors in France, it is said, but it is quite nice. So the ship has that capability of doing that little piece of ocean as well. And here, of course, you have an overnight at the end of the cruise in Paris. So the guests do get to experience Paris. But you see Auvers-sur-Oise, which is all about Van Gogh because he painted his final masterpieces there. A little bit further near Honfleur, I think it's in Giverny, you have Monet's house and garden. In Honfleur itself, you can do a tour to visit the Normandy beaches, to learn about the D-Day landings. There's different abbeys and castles. There's Normandy specialties like Calvados, cider, and of course the soft cheeses. So fantastic tour. Again, from April all the way to October, which does have the best seasonality. All the rates currently include a €500 per person discount, which is basically the early bird special. Bordeaux, the wine region, going all the way to Sauternes, Saint-Émilion, a really fantastic itinerary as well, with the same seasonality in France. And then if you have guests looking for a last minute getaway, so it's still leaving this month, I'm aware, but you never know. Guests are booking later and later. We have a really, really nice itinerary on the Rhine from Basel to Amsterdam in 1 week, and then heading back on the 28th from Amsterdam to Basel, which, yeah, is a great deal. And it's a fantastic itinerary, of course, as well, sailing along the Rhine, along the little castles, all the way into Switzerland. Yeah, so this is a discount that is not yet loaded on our website. So if you do have some requests for that, feel free to contact me. And yeah, in the meantime, let's go on with Emerald. So Emerald cruises, a lot of times we get the question, yeah, but what's the difference between Scenic and Emerald? You're one group, you're doing river cruises, but you're sort of on the same itineraries. Doesn't it, yeah, isn't it like competition to each other? So basically, Emerald got started with feedback from Scenic guests. So we had Scenic guests say, yeah, it's really nice, everything you do, the whole all-inclusive, but yeah, you know, we don't need butler service. We don't really need the butler. We can do everything on our own. And the all-included drinks is really nice, but we're on tour most of the day, so we feel we don't really take advantage of it. And it's nice to have up to 2 excursions per day and the Scenic and Rich, but sometimes we just want some free time. We just want to relax. And of course, these tours are all optional, but you know how it is, right? If it's part of the program, you got to do it because it might be the tour that you're missing out on otherwise. And so we just decided to create a second brand. It's a younger brand, of course. Emerald is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year. And it just includes a little bit less, giving a little bit more free time to the guests to also explore on their own. It still includes everything you would expect, which means transfers, Wi-Fi, all the gratuities, all the meals, of course. We include drinks during the meals, meaning wine, beer, soft drinks. We include coffee, tea, and water throughout the day. and where Scenic has a vast choice of different excursions. For Emerald cruises, we include 1 excursion per day. So guests still get to see everything. If they want to do something different, we do have some tours that we offer as a supplement. We do have e-bikes on board guests can use, and otherwise guests just also tend to go off on their own to go exploring. So just to give you here also a little bit of an impression, you see again, panorama balcony suites, a little bit smaller than on Scenic, but still really beautifully appointed. In color, usually Scenic has those darker, richer colors. Emerald is all about lighter colors. Yeah, very opposing brands in that sense. And the balconies here on Emerald are integrated into the suite, so they don't close off separately, but it just makes the suite a bit larger. So I found it actually quite nice, bringing really light into the room. And here as well, we go all the way up to the owner suite. Yeah, so guests have different options again to choose from. We have one main restaurant here, the Reflections restaurant. Again, we have a buffet breakfast and lunch, always with a small a la carte option as well, that guests can choose from. A bit more limited than on Scenic, but we do have some options. And then we have a 4-course set menu in the evening, again, with a daily changing menu, again, inspired also by the region where we are sailing. All the Emerald ships, except for the Douro, have an indoor pool. It's actually a multifunctional space because at the push of a button, the floor of the pool comes up and the water goes off to the side, and it's a closed floor, which we use for yoga classes. We do movie nights there. We have like the screen that comes in front of the window that comes down, and then we just project Hollywood movies there. And then when we need the pool again, we push the button, the floor goes down and the water comes back, and it's once again a pool. So it's quite nice. In the summertime, it always has a retractable roof, so guests can still enjoy that space. It's really, really a nice feature. And on the Douro, we do have a vitality pool, just like Scenic does, because there the guests do spend a lot of time outdoors. So of course, all the ships have a sun deck. We have the yoga classes, the exercise classes on a daily basis. We have these on Scenic as well. And then here on the bottom right, you can actually see the setup of the movie night. So it's quite interesting because the first time I walked in, I thought, oh, this space looks very different. So the pool is just underneath. So yeah, quite cool to do. With Emerald, all the ships are pretty much the same look and feel as well. So yeah, it's also very easy to sell to your customers. Itinerary wise, a little bit less than Scenic because we only have 8 ships sailing in Europe. So we have 1 ship again sailing on the Douro from and to Porto, where Scenic does 8 and 11-day itineraries. Emerald only does 8-day itineraries on the Douro, which in Europe is what we tend to book generally anyway. Then in France, the same. We have 1 ship, the Emerald Liberté, sailing 8 days. Itineraries down to Avignon. And then the other 6 ships are on the Rhine-Main-Danube, again, doing different combinations of itineraries. So again, to give you a little bit of an idea, the Rhine tour, again, from either from Basel or Zurich to Amsterdam or vice versa. It has a slightly longer seasonality than Scenic. So it starts in March and goes all the way to November. We started extending the seasonality because we see that the climates are getting milder and milder. And of course, we do our Christmas cruises as well. So yeah, it just made sense for us to extend. And here you see also a little bit of a price difference. I've always given the rate in a balcony suite, just like for Scenic, so that you can really compare nicely. And here again, yeah, you see Cologne, one of the oldest cities in Germany, Koblenz. We have included tour going to the Ehrenbreitstein Fortress. You go by cable car, actually, so you see beautiful views. And Koblenz is sort of nestled between the Rhine and Moselle rivers, so it looks almost like a fairy tale also setting surrounding, so it's really, really nice. Heidelberg, of course, I think it's the UNESCO City of Literature that you can see there. We have also the Heidelberg Castle. We always try to offer also more active tours, so we do some hiking, some bike tours that are guided for those who want to do that as well. Eastern Europe, another itinerary that we do from Budapest to Bucharest. So also along the Iron Gates. I've tried to give you different itineraries between Scenic and Emerald cruises just to not be repetitive, but both brands have both itineraries in general in those rivers. So it's, yeah, they're interchangeable. It just really depends what your clients are looking for as a type of ship and what they want from inclusions. So on the Rhône, you go to, for example, in Beaune. So you start in Lyon, where you don't really go to Lyon unless you have a pre-night for your guests, but then they go up to Chalon-sur-Saône, to Beaune. They visit the hospice in Beaune, which used to be a hospital for the poor, which is now one of Burgundy's most popular wine auctions. But then on their way back, they have another day in Lyon, so they can really discover that city before they go all the way down to Avignon. We don't have something like Scenic and Rich with Emerald, because of course that's really a scenic program. But we do, for example, in Avignon, organize a classical concert for our Emerald guests. It's what we call Emerald Plus. We have a Provençal dinner that is also hosted by a local chef, which is Fabien Montréal, who is a Top Chef finalist in France. So we have all these different options as well that we do there for our guests. The Douro, here you see the itinerary. We go all the way to the border and back with stops in Pocinho and Pinhao. We do tours to the Mateusz Palace. We see the Botanic Gardens. Guests can go hiking in a vineyard. They can do some port wine tasting. So they have an overnight at the beginning and at the end in Porto. So they can actually see Porto as well, which is a beautiful city. Yeah, actually worth a city trip on its own. And yeah, so this is again really one of our most popular itineraries. Here as well, we've extended the seasonality into December. Again, yeah, really mild climates there. I was there, I think, in September, and it was still 26 or 27 degrees. So it still does get very hot. So even in December, yeah, it is a bit cooler, but it's definitely not what we have in Ireland or Switzerland. So yeah, a lot of guests just want to have a little getaway. So this is actually the best example. This is a tour we added spontaneously. We started extending the season this year, and we spontaneously added a 30th November tour, I think a month ago, more or less. So this one you see has a 25% discount. So if you have any clients looking for, you know, an off-season getaway to a little bit of a milder climate, maybe to do some port wine tasting, and they want to see more than just Porto, then this is definitely something to recommend. So it's really, yeah, perfect time, end of November. And then we also have end of this month, Danube Explorer. So this is very similar to the Gems of Danube with Scenic. So again, you have Passau, you do Český Krumlov, you have various guided hiking and bike tours. Again, you will visit the Melk Abbey. There's a culinary tour in Budapest with the visit to the Grand Market. We have a traditional Hungarian folklore show on board. So it's very diverse and really, really interesting also for our guests to see. And it's a 10-day tour because we have 3 nights in Budapest. So again, sort of a city trip on its own. And then the last one is our Christmas cruise. So our Christmas cruises are doing really, really well, but there's one that I particularly love, which is a short one, because sometimes you don't want to spend 2 weeks doing Christmas markets or even a week. I think like a few days, I think is perfect. And this is an itinerary going from Budapest to Vienna. It's a sort of like an extensive city trip, such, because you start in Budapest, you even have an overnight there. You go to Bratislava, a beautiful little old town on its own, just beautiful to visit with their little Christmas market. And then you go to Vienna, where you have another overnight, and you can see the different Christmas markets that Vienna has. I think there's already 6 or 7 only in the old town area, spread around different locations, and they all have a very different atmosphere. So it's really like the ultimate, Christmas city trip, I would say. And as a special offer for the guests, we've now included a free platinum drinks package as well, to really make it an all-inclusive. So I think I'm pretty much at the end. I spoke pretty fast because I thought I definitely want to be on time. I want to thank you for listening to me. I hope you've gotten some insights into what Scenic and Emerald cruises are all about on the European river cruises. I give the word back to Carrie in case there are any questions in the chat.
Thank you so much, Kay. That was such an all-encompassing presentation, and you're an absolute pro. I mean, but just the way you speak about the different ships and the different itineraries is amazing. I just thought that was fantastic. So thank you so much.